Okay, so this is what we expect every single Unipest spray jockey vehicle to look like. Every service vehicle should have some basics here. You're going to have a chemical box that's going to be holding all of your chemicals that have to be under lock and key. This must always be locked when you're not using it, basically. Right here, always. This is the most important part of your vehicle and the #1 violation. If you do get a violation, it's $250 personal fine, at least $2,500 fine to the company. We do not want that. Make sure this is locked. There should always be a handheld, what's called a BNG colloquially, but this is also just a handheld sprayer, okay? We use either Aerofog or BNG sprayers. This should always be on your vehicle, ready to rock and roll, depressurized and under lock and key as well. We use combo locks here. Most of the combo locks are the same. Ask us for the combination if you don't know what it is when you're in training. There will also be a Birchmeier, also known as a backpack sprayer, that needs to also be as well under lock and key, as you can see here. Some of the trucks are outfitted with jug bases, so you can have 10 to 12 1-gallon jugs full of water. That's more for your comfort and ease than it is a requirement of law, but we have outfitted some trucks with those, so before you leave you should make sure that those jugs are filled up as well. Now inside this vehicle, you'll notice there's also in some vehicles going to be large water jugs. This is for your ease and comfort, so when you're doing lots of services in one day, you don't have to constantly be going to the hose in order to fill up your backpack or your BNG with water. And you should always have the standard issue spill kit and containment kit. This is in case, heaven forbid, there's some kind of accident that you have to spill and maintain. We will train you on the protocols for spills as well. There should be a ladder in case you need to get into the attic to set any kinds of rat traps or to inspect something or to possibly spray a little bit higher, maybe for wasp nests or something like that. This isn't state law, but it is company policy that you make sure your ladder is secured, either with a lock or with a chain, because on the freeway, sometimes even heavy ladders can shake loose and can come out of the back, which could be a very, very big health concern, not just for you, but for the other passengers and drivers behind you. So make sure your ladder is always locked down. And then in some vehicles, there's going to be a secondary poison box or a secondary chemical box that will also as well be under lock and key. And you'll notice here, you need to make sure before you leave that every single one of the chemical boxes is marked with the proper signal word. If you don't know what the proper signal word is, make sure that this sticker that says danger poison storage area is on there. Also, you want to make sure that you have a de-Weber pole, but make sure it's got a fresh head on it. One head used full time really only lasts about 1 week, and it starts becoming much less effective after the 4th or 5th day, so make sure that you always have fresh heads as well. Those are located in the chemical storage area as well. Okay, so every time you open up a chemical box, there should be some basic things. First and foremost, there's going to be the chemical that we're using that day or that month or for that day's services stored in an upright position inside the chemical box, okay? Along with some other things. For commercial services and services that use German cockroaches, you need to have the proper kind of bait. Also, for German cockroach services, we use a lot of the BNG low lines or pheromone trap monitors, okay? You want to make sure that there's a whole stash of pheromone traps in there. You actually probably should have 2 or 3 of these in every chemical box. Today's a short amount of services where we only do one commercial institution, so we only have 1, but you probably should have 2 or 3. It helps if you also have a bunch of these all-purpose rat trays. These are good not just for rats and mice, but also for roaches, scorpions, snakes, fleas, ticks, mites, so on and so forth. It's a good general monitor tray. You always want to make sure that you have a caulking gun and plenty of bait. We like using Vendetta or Advion, as well as other products from Rockwell Labs, okay? Then, also inside here, you're going to have the additional chemicals, once again, also stored in an upright position. The tempered might be one that we use inside or for bed bug treatments, so you want to make sure that's stored in an upright position as well. And whenever you're not around, as we specified earlier, make sure everything is stored under lock and key. As a whole, the truck also should have, you can see right here, the markings for the company license, as well as the company name and phone number so we're easily identifiable both to the Structural Pest Control Board and to the consumers at large. The vehicle should always be kept well maintained. You can see inside here that we've got a clear cab. Everything looks good. There's not a bunch of debris or fast food or what you had for lunch yesterday around. It's well maintained and looks both professional and is comfortable to drive. Now let's go over some of the things that I expect to see inside of the cab of the truck in order for it to both be compliant with law and also compliant with our company protocols. First off, let's talk about law. Behind every seat or anywhere accessible in the cabin, you have to have the booklet of MSDS sheets. You notice here, everything's labeled. And it also says, in case of medical emergency, where you can go with some numbers, all right? Inside of this booklet, you're going to find the label and the MSDS sheet for every single one of the chemicals that we have inside of the truck. So if you ever get audited by the County Agricultural Commissioner, you will have all of this information on hand. It is important you have this book in the truck. I have been audited before and had to show this book and certain information from the MSDS sheets there. Also, if a customer asks you for information about any of the chemicals, you have to be able to readily give them that information. That information is inside of this book, so make sure you have it. Also, behind the seat, you should have what I call the compliance bag. This bag is a very simple bag that has, in some cases, the MSDS sheet stored inside, but it has other additional PPE. It has a spare shirt, a spare change of pants, extra glasses in case you break yours. It even has ear protection in case you're doing subterranean termite jobs. Ear protection is not necessary for law, but it is part of our company protocol, as well as knee pads and a crawl suit in case you guys are going underneath the home for a termite job. If your job requires a respirator, inside of your compliance bag, you will also need that respirator, okay? It's pretty rare we need to use respirators, but you should always have one on you. Even if you do not suspect that you are going to have to use a respirator that day, make sure you always have your first respirator on you and a backup respirator in your compliance bag. This is very important. You need to use a respirator anytime you are spraying chemicals inside of an enclosed area, meaning if you're spraying them inside of a house and the doors must be closed, or anytime you're simply in an enclosed area, even if there are no pesticides. If you are, for example, just spraying water in an attic, I would still recommend that you wear your respirator because that attic with all the dust and the fiberglass debris and all of that other airborne stuff in the air can be very uncomfortable and can be a health risk in and of itself. So always have a respirator. 2 is 1, 1 is none, so always carry a backup too. You have to have the replacement set of clothes as part of the law. This other stuff is extra, okay? This goes in what I call the compliance bag behind the seat. You need to make sure before you do any job or before you leave in the company vehicle that both the compliance bag and the MSDS book are behind the sheet. If you do not, once again, it is a violation. $250 fine for you. $2,500 fine for us. We don't want that to happen, so make sure you have both of those. Also, before you leave in your vehicle, you need to have the proper PPE. As soon as the law changes and we go to having 14 mil gloves, you need to have 14 mil gloves. For now, they're letting us use up all of the 9 mils that we have. But you need to have your hand protection as well as your eye protection in the vehicle at all times. Make sure you have spares of both, so in case you run out, you don't have to come back to the office. You also have instant soap and water, hand sanitizer, so after you're doing pest control services or you get a grimy job, and let's just say you want to go eat, you can stick some of this in your hand and wash your hands, and it's literally as though you just use soap and water to wash your hands, all clean, and guess what? It even smells good. On top of that, you've got inside the door here our big envelopes that we use for leaving the service tickets at the door, and for those few customers that still pay by check instead of paying by credit card, you've got the pay by credit card envelopes inside each one of the doors. We expect you to leave with plenty of water. During the winter time, this job isn't as dehydrating, but let me tell you, during the summertime, you will be going through lots of these. We have to give you, according to OSHA standards, plenty of water, which is located inside of the office. You need to make sure you leave with plenty of water. Other than that, as long as this vehicle is kept clean and presentable and looking professional, you're completely compliant with all of the state law and our company protocol, except for one thing which often gets forgotten, and that is the emergency medical posting. If you look in the back window here, see this paper that I posted? Let's take a look at it from the other side. And you'll notice this has the address and the number of the closest medical facility, as well as poison control numbers, county health numbers, and other emergency numbers that will be necessary in case of an emergency. It's state law that we have posted on the vehicle readily available where you can go in a hospital in case of emergency. If this is not here, your vehicle is not compliant. So once again, on the truck, you need the chemical box that needs to be properly labeled. You need the chemical box to be properly locked under lock and key with a combination lock that's tamper-proof. You need to make sure that any kind of spray devices are under proper lock and key, just like they are now, and that you have a spill kit that is readily accessible. All these other things don't necessarily have to be locked down for anything else other than your own personal security. That's not state law, but we definitely don't want you losing objects, flying off on the freeway, so on and so forth. You need the compliance bag behind the seat, as well as the MSDS sheet folder behind the seat. And as long as all those things are accomplished and you have your license on you in your pocket with all of your PPE present on you if you're doing the service, or your PPE, meaning personal protective equipment, inside the cab of the vehicle and ready, then you are ready to rock and roll. Make sure you have all of these items or you are not in compliance. Now, one last note about labeling. When in doubt, label it. Every single piece of application equipment on your truck needs to have a label stating the chemical that is being used and the common name of that chemical with its EPA registration and all the contact information of the pest control company. So if you have a B&G, you need to make sure that that B&G has a sticker on it or has a label on it that says, hey, inside of this B&G, I have Termidor SC, parentheses, fipronil, because fipronil is the active ingredient, along with the EPA registration number of that chemical, with Unipest and 23638 Lyons Avenue, number 105, Newhall, California, 91321, with our office number of 661-BUG-7575. As long as you have that label on every single piece of equipment, you are compliant. If you're not, you are non-compliant. $250 fine for you, $2,500 fine for us. So make sure every piece of equipment before you use it has a label, whether it is a B&G, whether it is a Birchmeyer, whether it's a backpack sprayer, or whether it's a spray bottle that you happen to mix pesticides in. Whatever it is, unless it is a FIFRA 25 exempt chemical, it needs to be labeled. Once everything is up to snuff and you're ready to rock and roll, make sure you get your route sheet from your supervisor and you are ready to go.